All right, this is going to be an awesome part of the program. And as I have said, when actually Andrew was asking me a question early on, and he said, okay, if you have to thank somebody because of doing this event and all that, I always say everything we do at DeLaval, we thank our producers. We thank our customers. Because everything, if not all we know, has been taught by all of you. And all we do is we share what we learn in one farm, the successes and the mistakes is what we share so that others can make progress and can do well. So, being that said, Thierry, myself, and on behalf of DeLaval, we feel really, really, really proud. Because for the first time in the history of the company, and probably in the history of all robotic companies, right, Thierry? We have been able to bring the top 7 producers of robotic, with robotic milking systems from around the world. And that is quite something. And that is a big, big effort. We recognize the effort all of you do from Australia, New Zealand, Chile, driving, flying hours and driving to here. So let's receive them with a big, big, big round of applause. So how this panel is going to work? We are going to have each of the producers coming to the stage, and in 15 minutes, they will present their operation. Where they are located, what kind of cow traffic system, some of the highlights, what the plans for the future are. Once we are finished with these 7 presentations, we will have a very, very warm, interactive Q&A session that we plan between 30 minutes and an hour. How rich the discussion is going to be is totally up to you. If you ask questions, if you want to interact, we will have a great discussion. So this is the moment where the event is all yours. And with that, I'd like to hand out to Thierry.
Thank you. So we'll start with someone who flew quite some distance from Australia, a little island called Tasmania. And it was a really great pleasure to be at the farm just some weeks ago. And Marcus, if you want to come on stage. Marcus is going to tell us why he's here. And thank you so much for taking the time to fly. The 3 robots are taking care of the cows while Marcus can do these things. But I won't divulge any more secrets. All yours.
Thank you, Taryn. So last night, Francisco told us to go out last night, and let's put it this way, us Australian boys went out for a while, and put it in robotic terms, I had not much idle time last night. So, as he said, I'm from Western Creek, Tasmania. So, the Tassie Devil, most Americans probably know, that's where he's from. Lives next door. Yeah. So, as we said last night, it's a family farm, nearly 100 years in our family. So we're up to that 1,500 acres, milking on 2 farms, about 500-600 cows, with 1 robotic farm and 1 conventional doubled up 15-15, or whatever you guys call them over here. So Tasmania's it's about 43 degrees south, so it's very similar latitude to Chicago and somewhere like that, but it's being a very small island, we don't get cold, so it's about a 55-inch rainfall. So we run a full pasture-based system, and yes, it's about but just in terms of land price for a general thing, it's about $10,000 to $15,000 an acre. So this is just the VMS farm we'll talk about from now on. So back in 2011, we set it up, and I didn't have enough cows at the time, so we just ran 2 VMSs for the first year. And then the next year we put it up to the 3rd robot. So as a pasture-based system, there's a small feed pad, as you can see in that picture, but that's really just used as an overflow yard. So when there's too many cows waiting to be milked, they'll go there and have a bit of silage or brewer's grain or something like that. So there's 6 Adapala feeders, because we feed 8, maybe 10 kilos of grain a day, and that all has to be fed through the VMS or the Adapala feeders, 4 smart gates and just the normal vat and stuff like that. So being a pasture-based farm means most of our pasture is grown in spring, or more of it, so it's better. So we're 100% spring calving, and about 75% of my feed is pasture, and the other 25% is all the grain that was brought in. So I don't know if many people here would know about pasture grown and consumed, and that probably apart from Alvin. So 14 tonne consumed per hectare. So this year we peaked at the 232 cows through the 3 VMSs, and 7.5. I didn't have to excuse myself, I'll talk in kilos today because it makes sense to me, and in some places we've put pounds, so that 7.5 to 8,000 litre cows on the farm. So this is where it gets a bit interesting for you guys, probably. As it's a pure pasture-based farm, instead of having a feed face, the cows will go to pasture 3 times a day. And if you look into the top picture there, there's a pen stuck in the ground there, and that's the pasture cover that the cows would go to as they go to the paddock. And 6 to 8 hours later, they'll graze it down to where the pen is there, and they'll happily leave the paddock wanting to go to the next break of feed. And as you can see up there on the top right-hand corner, the reason we are pasture-based farmers is because what we can grow is the grass. You know, we can grow 12.5 to 13 ME grass most of the year, and high protein levels. So we don't really need to supplement them with anything else apart from a bit of grain. So that's just roughly what the daily allocation of the feed would be. 14 kilos of pasture, 8 kilos of grain, and then we'd also feed a little bit of brewer's grain or corn silage on the feed pad just to handle the overflow, the way we manage the cow traffic. So obviously that pasture, the 14 kilos, is divided into the 3 breaks a day, but that doesn't mean that it's 3 even breaks of feed, because we've got to get 24-hour traffic. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, the cows will go to a new break. So to get the cows going to the break at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's obviously when I feed them the most feed, to try to keep them there and happy. Because when the sun comes up, it's actually when you're trying to slow down the cows, because you don't want them all coming at the dairy at the same time. So this is a sort of a bit of a map of the farm. Where's my little... So we've got 4 drafting gates, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the cows will come in and out from each area. So we have a pretty sophisticated system of pre-milking selection, I guess you'd call it. So it's not just any cow that's got milking permission goes in to get milked, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But that's the basic setup. So as you can see, it's a bit more complicated than just yes, you got milking permission, or no, you don't have milking permission. And that's a general layout of the farm. So the 3 areas. So the dairy in the middle, pasture area A will be up here, B over there, and C. So they follow a lane. And in each area there's about 10 paddocks in each area. So if you're on a 20-day round, you're halving the paddocks. 30-day round, you give them 3 feeds in each paddock, and so on. So it's quite simple to manage in that sort of way once you're running. And the spring calving for us creates the challenges of that's probably what I'm here to talk a bit about, and how I manage the capacity of the system. So as a spring calving herd, 10 weeks into calving, all our cows will be calved. So probably 15 weeks into calving, all the cows are peaking at the same time, which really puts pressure on the system. So it really makes it hard when we get down to about a 5% idle time, So it's very difficult. Then as the season goes on, we obviously drop down a bit. So this is just a screenshot we took one day of the farm. So harvesting the 40 kilos a cow, but up to 17 kilos per visit, so 40 pound a visit. And that's how I get the high harvest from each VMS, is doing high litres per milking. I don't chase the milking frequency. And that's sort of what I was going to put a little thing out there, a bit of a test. You North Americans love your production. So if you've got 50 cows doing 45 litres each, it'd be 150 milkings a day. But us in Australia and New Zealand, we'll be chasing probably 75 cows doing 35 litres per milking. And at the end of the day, it's still 150 milkings. But if we can get the right milking, if we can get the right litres per harvest, in that situation, we'll be harvesting 400 litres more per day per VMS. So you guys, 50 cows doing 45 kilos is 2,200 litres of machine. Where if you go up to the 35, only 35 litres a cow, but 75 cows, you'll get more. And this is sort of what I was talking about with the spring calving system. So all the cows are in very much similar days in milk. So on the farm, in the 0 to 100 days in milk, we'll get up to that 78 to 80 cows per VMS with quite a low milking time, 165 milkings a day, 7% idle time, and around 2,800 litres per machine. And as the season goes on, we dry some cows off for just general problems and mastitis and whatever have you. So the herd's always going down, and the production goes down. But as the season goes on, milking time gets shorter. So what I'm able to do with the milking times, I then change my milking permissions to get the cows milked more often. So back here, I might only be doing 2.2 milkings a day. And as I move on to 1 to 200 days in milk, as I'm only taking 6 minutes to milk the cows in, it's effectively 150 minutes more a day available. So I shorten the milking permissions up and milk the cows more often. So I might be up to 2.6 to 2.8 as the season goes on, which is a bit backwards, but it's all about running the robots at 100% of the time. So this is a screenshot I took one day. Some of the dealers in Australia, as I was probably one of the first, probably in the top 10, first 10 in the world to go on a full pasture-based system. There was only a couple in Australia at the time as well. And we wasn't real sure how much production we'll be able to get out of the machines. And they reckoned in the first year if I did 1,800 litres per machine, it'd be a good job. And I think I did about 2,200. And by the third and fourth year, it got better and better. And I told him if I ever get to 3,000 litres, I'd wanted a trip to Sweden. So one day I hit this, and not all three machines did it, but it was 3,200 litres a machine in a day, so 7,000 pound of milk. But then I didn't really look at it that much, and I was looking at it there one day, studying it, and how did I get so much? And it all comes down to the incomplete milkings. So one incomplete milking out of 175 milkings. So that's sort of how I really changed the way I farm a bit then, about trying to get more milk in the udders and make sure I don't have high incompletes. Because as you can see, the one that below it, 14 incompletes a day, has created a milking time of 8 minutes. And that's all because I find that incomplete cows create incomplete cows. A cow that takes 7 minutes to milk, if she's incomplete, the machine will muck around with her, add another minute or two to her, and then she's incomplete, so she has to do it again. So all of a sudden, it's taking 20 minutes to milk the same cow, and it just wastes so much time. So that's how I really push the system there. I don't really know how I was going to explain this, but so I try to run the VMS to 90%, at least 90% time most of the year, so 10% idle time. So as I was saying before, as I got no time left in the system, I open up their milking permissions to get more milk in their udder, and because it still takes that couple of minutes to put the cups on each time. But that creates the problem of I'm slowing down the amount of milkings per cow, which means, so it obviously, and I'm really starting to notice it now with the more milkings you do, it definitely does drive production up and it improves milk quality. So it's a fine line between being able to push the system to do 3,000, 3,200, 3,400 litres, whatever you want to challenge yourself to do, but also keeping the milk quality there and also getting the production per cow, which makes it difficult. And this is one thing here that I really work hard on. So as I said, I've got the 4 drafting gates. So any cow that turns up at the dairy with milking permission is not necessarily milked. So, and this is one thing I find at a lot of people's farms when I go to, they don't have very complex milking permission times. They just have a simple 4 hours or 5 hours and 10 litres or whatever. And it ends up being that a cow that wants to go to the dairy all the time is always out and getting milk too often for not enough litres harvested per milking. So I think this is some of the important stuff for the way we farm, is having priority cows and an access lane. So I only let 10 cows in behind the 3 VMSs to be milked, unless they become a priority cow. And a priority cow, though, does not have to be a red cow. That's where it gets very complicated. Yes, and I'll go through that in a minute. And so just a simple finish on that. So when you're setting the milking permissions, I always make sure that a high producing cow will get granted milking permission based on her litres, where a low production cow will get milking permission on a time. And I find that very important to get that high litres per milking. So as an example there, I've got a 48 litre cow. If she was set on an 8-hour milking permission or 12 litres, she would obviously get milking permission based at 6 hours based on the 12 litres. Where if I went out to 8 hours, it's starting to get up to 16 odd litres in her udder, and if she's a bit late, it's a bit too much. But then also with that setting, you've got to make sure you can change it for the overdue cows. So a 3 hour, she gets milking permission at 6 hours, but I'd have her as an overdue cow at 9 hours. So she's overdue at 9 hours, where most people run a red cow at 12 hours. So that's where it gets very complicated, I find, and I think a lot more people need to start playing with them settings to push that out. And I've got this on the next screen. So what it is, as you can see along the bottom, a 24 litre cow, a 48 litre cow and a 72 litre cow, just for simple maths, it was easy to do it this way. And up the side here is when they would receive milking permission. So a 72 litre cow receives milking permission at 4 hours, but that's based on that she would have 12 litres in her udder, where a 48 litre cow would probably receive milking permission at the same time through both parameters, so 6 hours or 12 litres in her udder. Whether the 24 litre cow, you don't want her getting milking permission at 6 hours because you'd only have 5 litres in her udder. You have to get her out to get more milk in her udder and to lessen the incompletes. And I think that's very important, and too many people milk their cows too often, as in a 30 litre Holstein cow late in lactation. She doesn't need to be milked 3 times a day. She should be able to hold 15, 18 litres in her udder. So she only needs to milk 1.8 times a day on my farm. So obviously the marketing employees, the more times you milk them, they will give more milk, which is true to a certain extent. A 30 litre cow getting 10% more milk gives you 3 more litres. But if you only milked her twice and got that 30 litres, but if you've got 2 of them cows, it gives you another 2 milkings a day to put another 48 litre cow into the system. So that's the way I think about it. I hope I'm making sense to everyone. So that's about it I was going to talk about. So So I find in the pasture-based system in Tasmania, just management is the key. We can't just run simple 4-hour milking permissions and stuff like that. You have to run high priority milkings to get the high litres per VMS, and the strategic use of the feed pad. So sending cows there to be milked, to be held there. If they've got milking permission but they only received milking permission an hour ago, and you've got 20 cows there that got milking permission 5 hours ago, make sure them ones are milked. So I'm effectively creating a queue for the cows. And all in all, that would just create more litres per VMS. And that's it. No idea how I went for, but anyway.
Thank you very much, Marcus, really. No, and we acknowledge it is this tough, because when you come from a farm and speaking in front of a crowd like this, it is very hard. So we really, really appreciate all the effort and so on. Thank you very much. All right, very good. So now we have another top producer, this time a little bit farther, right?
Yep. Right.
From New Zealand. So we have Alvin Reid from New Zealand, our top producer. Thank you very much, and please welcome him with a very big round of applause.
Hi, on board. Going. Been a fair bit of discussion on the calf hutch or the wife. I built an automatic calf feeder, and the wife's still with me 40 years later. So, hey, look, welcome to Riverholme Pastures. We are trying to set up a voluntary milking system on pasture. DeLaval's view of the world forgot there was some countries down under. So to give you a bit of a picture where we come from, when we look east, that's all we see. We're a long way from where we are today. And we do have internet gets to that part of the world as well. Okay, so the voluntary has been the key objective at Riverholme Pastures. Went to a VMS training course for a week before we started the robots, and the guy teaching it, this is what he said: it's more difficult to change the farmer than the cow. So I was determined not to be beaten, so we've tried to rethink this thing from first ground rules again. Because after 30 or 40 years of dairy farming, it creates a lot of expectations and routines. And I guess the challenge in this was cows walking up to 1 kilometre each way for a feed. 3 to 4 kilometres a day, walking was nothing. So how would we get a voluntary system to work on pasture? The farm, 130 hectares, 6 DeLaval VMS units. We're milking 480, calving 480 to 500 cows, milking 480 cows, spring calving. All the cows calve August, September, few into October, and we're in our 3rd year of operation. I guess the key drivers of pasture-based dairy system: growing large quantities of high-quality pasture. That's the first principle. Second is to harvest that feed with high genetic merit cows. These cows, 480 kilograms live weight, 1,000 pound. I think I saw heifers at about mating in Wisconsin that were probably as big or bigger than our mature cows. So these cows are eating at least 90% of their diet as pasture. We want them to calve every 365 days, so we achieve about a 280-day lactation. So we actually get 2 months holiday in the winter while you guys are milking through that, all that snow. We're doing about 425 solids a cow. I think that equates to about 940 pounds of solids. Our milk's about 9.3, 9.4% solids for the season, 4,500 litres, so about a third to 45% of what your cows are doing. But harvesting that pasture is what we expect these cows to do, and we expect them to leave it something like that. And that was a real challenge. How do we get cows on a voluntary system with the gates always open to leave pasture like that? Our part of the world, we rely on irrigation in the summer to grow grass in the bottom half of the South Island Canterbury Plains. There's the farm, 3 blocks, very much like Marcus outlined to you. The red circle in the middle, the VMS setup. And that's based on basically every 8 hours there's a change of gate, and how do you get cows to voluntarily travel not 400 cows at once. Each block is subdivided into roughly 15 paddocks, and that's your rotational grazing. So you're running 3 rotational grazing systems within the one farm. That's our setup, 6 VMS robots. Our robots are sitting in a semicircle. They're based on a small round yard, and it's worked very well. Just one shot there. We had a challenge this year, and this is our second full calving, to get each robot over 2,000 litres. And that day there we hit 2,170. Still a wee way to go to what Marcus and some of the guys here are doing. And around 27 litres a cow at the peak, over the peak month. Very little incompletes in there. So the key features around our layout. First piece is the 3 entry races from the 3 pasture blocks. 4 smart gates, 3-way selection smart gates. We have a round waiting yard, which holds up to 65 cows where cows are wait to be milked. Overflow of cows for milking cows. Marcus pointed out his went to the feed pad. Ours go straight to a holding yard, and they just do circuits around the system until there's room in the other yard. And then we've got the 6 robots spread around the semicircle there. And I guess the most important piece, which we've spent many hours on, and Marcus outlined it well, was the software which drives the gate rules to manage that traffic is a key fundamental to getting this as a voluntary system. I guess this goes for a couple of minutes, at 1 minute at this speed. This is what's just naturally happening. This is about 9 o'clock in the morning, so there's been a gate change for 2 hours, and these cows, that's the sort of natural pace of life in that place. You'll see some cows coming in from the top right and also vertical top. It's both from pasture C. And in a minute you'll see it'll speed up a bit, and it looks, but that will happen all day. And there we go. It's looks a bit. So you'll see cows start coming out down this bottom right-hand corner, which is into the overflow yard, which means that the holding yard is full, and they'll just keep some of these cows exiting from the middle of the picture, middle right to top left, overflow cows going round and round. So basically our system just runs like that all day. You hope that you don't get too large a crowd at once. Oops, backwards. Come on. All right, this is managing cows in the pasture. Right at the back against the trees is cows in Block C. The middle is Block B. That's cows going the rest to Block B. And around here to the left is cows still in Block A. So the people at DeLaval told our farm manager, if you want to manage a farm where you know where your cows are any part of the day, resign now. You'll never know where they are. And here's cows. They've been in there for close to 20 hours. And I don't understand what makes cows stay there for 20 hours. Those gates are open. There was 2 just walking up there a minute ago. And that's the whole, we want those cows to graze that pasture clean. We don't have to get the tractor and mower out then to clean that pasture off. I guess did we do analysis in the last few weeks about milking intervals. We achieve about 2 milkings per day at the peak, but we have 15% of our cows that are basically once a day cows, 1.18 milkings per day. And they're those cows that were still staying down there 20 hours. And, cow behaviour, and we need to understand those cows are critically important to the system to keep the pasture under control. Sure, they give less milk, but they save us a lot of time with machinery. So we've adopted absolutely 0 fetching of individual cows, and 15% has now turned into basically a once-a-day herd. and we will clear a block 1 to 2 hours before the next gate change for that block. There may be 0 cows there, which is most of the time. There may be 15, there may be 30 or 40. And that's how we've adopted that. I guess this was just at midnight the other night. Pasture A, pasture B and pasture C. The cows were spread over the whole farm in the middle of the night. So you get to work in the morning and you're not sure where the cows are going to be. I guess monitoring. Jeff was talking this morning about 8 computers. We've got 4 screens on 1 computer. And absolutely critical. This farm is managed at night time for 12 hours remotely. I currently live 300 kilometres, what's that, 200 miles away from this farm. And I look after the farm at night time via software and cameras. That's our 15 or so cameras we've got set up. I was going to try and do it live, but not time. So if anyone wanted to have a look at those cameras working later, give me a yell over tea and I'll start up the laptop. This is probably the most critical camera on the farm, sitting about 5 metres above the dairy. We can see 95% of the farm from that camera. My staff tell me that they know the 5% that I can't see from it. And I snapped these 3 pictures sitting in Auckland Airport the other night to put into this presentation. So that's the general view. There's cows in block A at the top left, cows in block B at the bottom right. I guess the other thing that was interesting was how to track cows. Manager gets there, or I'm watching at night time, no cows in the shed, still 200 cows in block A. How do we know where those cows are? Are they on the race because it's a kilometre up the race? So I built these little solar lights with PIRs on them, and every time a cow walks past, it stays on for 30 seconds. And that's what I would see at night time. So I think that's the pointer. That means there's some cows on the race. If the lights stay on for 30 seconds, there's 1 cow on the race. If the lights stay on a long time, there's a whole herd coming. So, but that has been absolutely, the manager gets to the farm in the morning and no cows at the yard. What's happening? He looks down the race, 3 lights on, he knows that there's cows on the way up. Will I cover that? Yeah. I guess from conventional farming, some of the increased costs have been around servicing VMSs. Electricity usage is definitely higher. Capital cost and depreciation higher. The benefits, we've reduced a person off that farm. 3 people run this farm on total. Animal health has absolutely slashed. We had 3 cases of feet attention last year, so we only had 3 lame cows for the whole season. Herd turnover, it is dropping. I haven't got down to 12% yet, but I'd like to get under 20, about the 15 to 17, 18. So lower culling will mean less replacements red, which was a good cost saving. We mate for 11 weeks of the year, a fixed block, and we have less than 10% empty cows after that mating period. And 50% of our cows will calve in 15 days from August onwards. So that puts a lot of extra pressure on the staff in the spring. I think robots have probably made us busier during that calving period. When you want to come and have a look at it, we can offer you some hotel accommodation. It's not quite Las Vegas style. Here goes cow 99 having a pair at us sleeping in the robots. When we started up, DeLaval said to us they'd like someone there on the place for 10 days, 24 hours a day. Judith and I slept there for 6 to 8 weeks and got the system running. And we have good housekeeping. The DeLaval machine fitters used to cook a barbecue every lunchtime when they were installing the plant. They never once asked who was keeping the barbecue clean. Every day the pan was spotless. So I guess, look, that's what pasture-based VMS is all about. We've got these cows travelling around the clock. And as Marcus said, peak, we have to keep every robot going full steam. At the moment, we've probably got 25% idle time. At the peak was sort of 5%. But look, it's been a fantastic project. It's challenged our minds. We've had some great working partnerships with some of the DeLaval people and others, and it's gone fantastic. So what's after milk? We've built a single malt whisky distillery in New Zealand. My daughter spent too long living in Scotland and England, I think. And that's the key ingredients for whisky. Pretty simple, a lot simpler than milking cows. Water, malted barley, yeast, oak barrels, and a heap of thyme. And first whisky tastings, those are coming out to New Zealand, 2025. And that's the other products we're doing. But look, it's been a fantastic project. Gives us a lot of satisfaction. The voluntary we have working, it has taken time. But what we're told that first week, it's harder to change the farmer than the cow is absolutely true. And we've gone out of our way to try and beat that. And all we look forward to in the future is improved milk prices worldwide. We're sitting about half our peak milk price at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arvid. Great story, right? So many ways to do it right. Like Nico said, always do it right. But there's many ways to do it right. What an inspiring presentation. We've got other ways to do it right. And the next presentation, I would like to invite our colleagues from Sweden and to do the presentation. We will have this is an international audience, so we all are not 100% comfortable in the language of English, so we'll have possibly some translation. Peter Hilding is coming from all the way from Sweden, and he was also supposed to be accompanied by his dad, Lars, but unfortunately the flu got in the way, and it's a nasty bug right now in Sweden. So Lars had to, unfortunately, stay home, and you're not contagious. So anyways, Peter still got in the plane with Håkan, and Håkan is the sales manager in the region, and they work together to put the whole operation in place, from the design and all the ideas. I will let you discover why Peter is here. There's another way of showing success. I'm so tempted to talk about it because it's exciting, but I will let you do that.
Yes.
Welcome.
Well, we will entertain you with our Swedish school English. Eller ska vi ta det på svenska? Vill ni att vi ska ta det på svenska?
Ja.
Eller ska vi ta det? Eller? Well, we try English instead, I think. I'm working for DeLaval. I have been there for a long time and had the pleasure to plan and sell this stall to the family of Hilding. No. The green? Hildings Lantbruk. We have Sweden. Do you know where Sweden, Scandinavia is? This is the other side. We have this New Zealand before, and we turn it upside down. We will have Sweden at the same place, I think. And we are living in the south part. It's an area with forest and small meadows. And this is the barn we built, 2013. And it's an isolated house. We have quite strong winters and rainy summers. And we have a law in Sweden that we have to have the cows outside grazing for 3 months. So the VMS is working with the cows going in and out for 3 months. Almost as you do in Australia and New Zealand, but only for 3 months. The rest of the year they are in the stall. And here is some of the performance from Hildings. When we started this project, we had quite soon 2,000 kilos.
First month.
The first month we reached 2,000. And in the stall we have 82 places, rooms for the cows. It's free stalls, 82. And it's slatted floor, and it's 4 rows. I don't know, do we have a plan for the stall coming? Yes, we take that later then. You see the figures? What should we say, Peter, about this? I think it's quite impressive. It is. And they have a very high flow on the cows. That's the most important thing. You take away cows who are too slow in milking. It's not possible to save cows with bad flow.
And bad teat placement.
Yes, and bad teat placement. That's a problem. Yes, you could read here. It's average 7 days. And often you see this kind of figures, it's 7 days, but the most interesting is what you have during a year, 365 days. And you have to, you sold, how much milk did you sell last year?
975,000 kilos.
975 tons to the milking company. That's quite a lot. And you are working with the OCC? Yes. And it's feed first. We will see the plan soon, I hope. Here we see the stall, and you see this slatted floor, and you have 4 feeding stations. In Sweden, we plan 20 cows per feeding stations. And often we have 2 or 3, but Peter have 4, so that all cows really don't need to wait to come and eat. Otherwise, vad heter lågrankare nu? They're not so dominate cows. They are not able to have the full rations during the 24 hours. It's important to have enough of these feeding stations. And often people think, we try with 3 or less. It's a cost, but it's absolutely not a cost. It's important. And we have isolated roof and walls, and we have panels and chimneys. The panels come from Canada. Otherwise, it's Swedish equipment, but the panels come from Canada. And we have a wagon. You see to the left, the blue wagon going on a rail. And how often do you give the cows grass? Every second hour. Every second hour. It's a very important thing that is always grass on the feeding table. Always grass on the feeding table. Four hours, and it's feed first. I think we will talk more about cow traffic tomorrow, are we? But it's feed first. And there is also a special group. You see, here we have the selection, and the cows goes like this in the barn, round like this, and if they have time for milking, they come in here and out, eating grass again, and then back. And here we have a small group that we call prima donna group, a special group. And here we could have cows who have problems with the hooves and things like that. They are maybe not so quick to go around. Then it's easy for them to just have this little turn in the stall. But it could also be första kalvar. Heifers, yes, in the beginning. They don't have that big pressure as it is in the other part of the stall. I think you have heifers in the prima donna. So they have one feeding station by their own in this little group. And depending how they develop, they could stay there for some weeks and then come out in the bigger group. This is what Peter has told us, what you think is most important. In Sweden, it's very popular with robotic milking. 1/3 of the milk comes from robotic milking in Sweden nowadays. 1/3. So it's very popular with robot milking. So, that was a short one.
Thank you very much.
Did you understand anything?
That was a very, very impressive figures, right? And there is something really interesting about the presentation and something that I have discussed with Jake and you, Amber, mentioned it as well. The opportunities of selecting cows for milking times. Very often we go to the dairies and we look at feeding strategies, TMRs and all that, but the effect that milking speed has on robotics is just unbelievable, it's crazy. And very often you go to these dairies and people say, hey, you know what, I really want to go to the next level. And all we have to do is go look at individual cows, individual milking times, and here the answer is just right there. So a very, very important area, and I see that you have a very strong strategy towards that. 189 milkings with 6 minutes and 30 seconds, and still having idling time. That means very, very strong strategy on putting pressure on milking times. Okay, very good. So now we have two very special guests. It is a pleasure for me to introduce Odriom Escobar, the herd manager of Ancali Dairy in Chile, and Bastian Mira, the dairy management advisor of DeLaval in Chile. Let's welcome them with a very big round of applause.
Thank you.
And because we will have the Latin swing here, so I'm going to join them in this presentation.
Thank you.
Very good. So, Odriom?
Thank you, Francisco. Thank you for the opportunity to come here, to first of all, to learn about all the knowledge in you guys and the doctors and the top farmers too. Thank you to Bastian to bring me here to share a little experience we have in the robotics. It's so recent, but I want to share with you.
I'm going to translate in some cases if you need. So that's what we will do, and to make sure that all of you can understand.
I really appreciate it.
Right?
Yeah. We are here. We are in the south of Chile, close to Los Angeles. It's a very small town in Chile. Chile is very long country. Is close to in the middle, This is our farm. I want to talk a little bit about the farm to put you guys in the context. We are Agricol and Cali is agricultural division on the Betia Group. Betia Group is one of the most business group in Chile, one of the most important business group in Chile, and the passion from the family born in the horses. My boss has the most important
Horse ranch.
Horse ranch in Chile. Actually, he have one ranch, horse ranch here in Lexington, Kentucky too.
Actually, American Pharoah was born in their ranch in Kentucky. So just as a little bit of a background.
A little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit, yeah.
We are milking actually recent 6,500 cows. We have 13,500 animals related with the milking operation. This is our production, 95 million liters per year, close to 90 pounds per day per cow, close to
9,800 hectares.
Yeah, 72 million kilograms of the corn silage as an example we spending to feed the cows. We are a philosophy, the family has a philosophy on the cow comfort. We try the cows, I think we try the cows well.
So it's sun-bedded free stalls?
Yeah, free stall. This is the old Rotary. We have four parlors in Rotary for 4 points each one. The high ceilings.
It's high ceilings, natural ventilation with some fans during the summer. The summers in Chile can be quite warm as well, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of heat stress.
Yeah. 24/7 monitoring for health, feeding, and reproduction. We have a good team. Well, the VMS project started up October 2014. 460 cows in 8 robots. This is the stall, well ventilated, high barn, because the stress in the summer is quite high. This is the layout. We have 2 groups for new cows for training, because we believe it's very important, the training. We discovered these 2 groups for new cows, one for left hand, one for right hand VMS, is very useful for us. And we try to train in very well the cows in these new groups, and then we move the cow to another group.
And to be clear, and Adrian, give me a second, this is
no
a
worries.
milk first operation. The last one was a feed first. The other were grazing. So this is a milk first operation, which means each of those pens is 60 cows, one robot per pen. The cows are resting, and in order to go to the feed bunk, they have to go through the selection gate. If they have milking permission, they go to the robot. If they don't have milking permission, they go and eat the TMR. It's a very TMR-driven herd, because as a large dairy, a lot of the energy is in the feed bunk.
Yeah.
And that farm, what we did was that top portion is exactly the same as Jake's operation. And Jake will explain his operation here in Wisconsin. So this is almost a Wisconsin farm operated in Latin America. It was just a copy-paste of what we did. And this probably has been the most copy-pasted layout in the United States. And I have never seen, actually the 2 top producing dairies from the US are this exactly same layout. So it's so interesting when you take the same barn and you put it in the US, in Pennsylvania, you put it in Wisconsin, you put it in Chile, and the performance is just so high.
The pen capacity is maximum used to 95% on the cubicles. The free stall, there is a view, night view. The cow comfort is very important for us. Talking about the management routines, we have a 3 daily shift for 8 hours each, because we can labor for more than 8 hours and 7.5 hours actually. 1 supervisor per shift. This guy focus in specific areas and take the milking incomplete, less than 2% as average. The red cow school, MDI check. We taken some samples. We have a lab in the farm.
They do on-farm culturing on the barn. And for some of you that are not familiar, MDI is the mastitis detection index. Is the method we use to see if a cow has mastitis or not. So they have an on-farm lab, so they culture the cow immediately.
Yeah, and the cows without milk, with low milking frequency, we fetch. This guy always do hospital and other checks. We feeding with a PMR once per day, and the concentrate in the robot 5.5 kilograms average.
So around 12 pounds.
Yeah, the curve of the feeding for concentrate is starting 1 kilo and ending the 8 kilograms per cow per day. This is one PMR sample. This is the composition. We made our formula for PMR for the concentrate too. The concentrate is based in the low starch and high soluble fiber. As I said, 1 kilogram to 8 kilogram consumption
Per cow.
per cow, obviously. And the PMR has this composition. It's not quite high almidon, but maybe.
The starch is 24.42, right? It's not so high in starch.
The level of the fiber is close to 30s. Basis in the 1 cow for 30 liters. I mean, this is
The PMR is based on a 30-liter production, and then the extra milk production comes from the pellets.
That's right. This is the VMS performance. I want to invite to Bastian to comment.
Yeah, Bastian, if you want to explain it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is the average figures of the.
El láser está ahí.
¿Cuál por atrás?
Este láser.
That one. That's the average for the 8 VMSs altogether. So these installations from October 2014. In average, this is a year-round average figure, so it's 57 cows per VMS per group. Our milking time is a little less than 7 minutes, so 6 minutes 49 seconds. Well, very high milk flow as well, as the case before. And well, the figure per VMS in average daily production is 2,600 kilos. I don't know that in pounds.
That would be in pounds. It's around 6,200 pounds, roughly.
Yeah. So it's 45 kilos per cow and 15 kilos per milking. We still know that we have room for more cows per VMS. We have 13% of idle time. But yeah, okay. And this is the best performance group, VMS 6. Here we have it's not the year average, but it's about 6 months, and we got to 3,000 kilos in that group. 52 kilos per cow. I don't know what the speakers say.
52 kilos per cow is 112 pounds a cow, average for 6 months in that VMS.
We are preparing to the future, for the future. The next month, we are starting the second model, VMS more.
So that will drive to 1,000, and we have some news for you tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some very exciting news, right, Adrian?
Yeah, we have a plan. Could be start in April and finish this December with the reconversion project for 48 VMS to this quantity of cows.
So we're gonna milk with 64 VMSs in December in this dairy. So I really think it's something special, because that's why Bastian is here. Because that success, you cannot have a dairyman if there is not good support. And because of the great support of Bastian and the team in Chile, they said, okay, we milked 6,000 cows successfully, 44 kilo average, right? They said, let's give it a try with robots. They did the first 8. Then they said, it works well. The milk production difference is 3 to 4 kilo per cow between the cows that are milked in the rotaries and the cows that are milked in the robot. Yeah. That is almost 10 pounds. That's almost a 10%. So based on that, the family made the decision, okay, let's order other 8 robots. And when they were doing that, the rotaries were, okay, how old are the rotaries already?
2002.
So the rotaries are almost 14, 15 years old. They said, we need to put or a big rotary, or what are we going to do? And they said, okay, let's go with 48 VMSs. And the timeline is you have from here until December to reconvert the entire dairy. So by December, this will be the largest robotic dairy in the world with 64 VMSs total.
Yeah, this is our plan. We hope all rolling well. AVMS in October 2014, AVMS milking to the next month. In the next December, we hope have 48 more.
The 16 robots, the 8 and 8, are milk first totally new barns. And for the people that was asking how successful is retrofitting barns, the other 48 robots are going to be placed in the old barns where instead of rotaries, we will put robots. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, more questions then in the panel, but I really think let's give them again a round of applause.
Francisco, next VMS Pro Chile.
Yeah.
I'm going to call you now. You're coming soon or no? Who's coming next? John, yeah? Where are we? Oh, sorry.
He has mic.
I'm sorry. Did I mess up or?
Why?
No, okay.
Yeah, it's for
Yes. And you are hooked up with the mic?
Yep, we should
All
be
right.
good.
Yep.
Good. Yeah. Okay, that was quite some news. I guess there's going to be quite a few people from a team that's going to go down to Chile to help with the setup, and but yes, you need some help, but we'll be right there. So next, we are traveling to Canada, and we will be talking about experiences on a different type of scale, also with Herd Navigator this time, I suppose.
Soon.
Yeah. And I let you take the microphone, John. Lake Huron, Ontario, close to where I used to work at Canada, so very familiar place. So please,
Great.
welcome.
Do you have the pointer? Thank you. Just wanted to thank DeLaval for inviting Jenny and I to be part of this. It's been a pretty interesting so far. I've learned so much already. Some days I question just why I push so much, and it just has kind of reminded me why I really am doing this. So this barn we built in 2011. I guess we started it in 2011. It's a 2 VMS barn that was built to expand to 3. It also houses all of our dry cows and breeding age heifers and pregnant heifers. I manage it with my wife Jen and my dad Murray. And just to give you an idea where we are, just right here on Lake Huron, about 3 hours west of Toronto. So I graduated University of Guelph in '99 and basically had no other intentions of doing anything but farming, so came straight back. And like I said, we decided to build the barn in 2010 and started in 2011. It's just myself, Jen, and my dad. I have 3 other siblings that all live off the farm, and Jenny also runs a horse boarding business and is a practice manager for my veterinarian. I do run 3 other employees, one being a full-time herds person, as we do 2,800 acres of cash cropping and custom work where we basically do everything from cultivation, planting, combining, full service. We also do a fair bit of hay and straw sales. We have our own large square baler that takes up most of our time in the summer. I got to give my dad so much credit. He's been through so many changes, has never questioned the direction we wanted to take. You know, he kind of came from the bucket milkers through tie stall to a parlor to now the VMS. And essentially anytime I really had a suggestion for anything, he could come out the next day and tell me exactly everything about it. He'd hit the internet and search it out and really just has always accepted any ideas, and I guess he likes to spend money as much as I do. So just a quick glance. Currently we're averaging 42 kilos at a 4% butterfat and 3.3 protein. In Canada, we still have a supply management system, so we kind of look at things more in kilos of quota produced per cow. So we traditionally try to aim for 1.6 to 1.65 kilos per cow, just to have the lowest cost of production, I guess, and the highest returns. We're running a calving interval of 13.1 with a pregnancy rate that generally goes between 22 and 25. We do utilize a pre-sync, off-sync program. It is kind of labor intensive just doing the needling every week and stuff, but I'm just not a real big fan of having to go around with Estermade and everything else. So just I'm not always the one doing it, so there's always room for error, and that's kind of our directions to go to Herd Navigator eventually, is to cut back on a lot of that extra needling. Also, we employ quite a few protocols, just monitoring ketones and stuff like that, so it's really going to save us a lot of time per day on those protocols. Certainly happy we built our barn with the 3rd robot in mind, as we just commissioned our 3rd one in mid-January, I think. We were just at capacity on 2, but being as a free traffic barn, we need a lot of idle time to promote visits and get them through. Again, just a little bit on our performance. 120 cows on the 2 VMS. Going back to the supply management, through the summer is a traditionally harder time to produce milk, so our board, our board will issue incentive days where we can produce milk, extra milk without quota. And at that time, we were kind of pushing up into that 130, 135 cows, and it was just getting to be a little bit overwhelming fetching, and especially with that being our busy period out in the field and stuff. So traditionally, we average about 2,500 kilos per robot every day. Obviously, in the summer, we were getting quite a bit higher than that, and just really putting some strain on the system where we just didn't have any room for error. If you had any breakdowns or maintenance days, it took a long time to get cows through and get caught up. Average yield is about 14.6 kilos per pass, with a 2.2 kilogram per minute average milk flow. And we would bounce between 2.5 and 2.8 milkings. And now that we're at 3, we're usually up against the 3 milkings per day. Install time is generally 6 minutes and 40 seconds or below. If it's ever creeping up higher than that, that's when I start looking at the robot just for anything that might be out of adjustment. Maybe the camera's not getting cleaned quite properly. I'm usually right on top of that anytime we see any deviations from anything that we usually consider normal. Our barn layout is 6-row sand bedded with natural ventilation. I believe our sidewalls are around 16 feet. We have alley scrapers and grooved floors. The traction on our floors is just second to none. Most people that come through our barn have really commented on, if animals are in heat, just how confident they look when they're goofing around like that. We certainly don't see any split cows, and I hope I didn't jinx myself. As I mentioned, we do have our dry cows and pregnant breeding heifers in the barn. We did have to move out our pregnant heifers as they were just in the area where the third VMS was installed. We have perimeter feeding, which I think is a key for us as we handle so many different changes in our climate. It lets us I think it lets our air mix a little bit better, and it's a little bit easier controlled right above the cows. We have large crossovers with no dead ends, just again for, bully cows can't get a cow trapped in certain areas and put them down or anything. Central handling and a trimming area was key, just so that we had no excuse to make sure that we took care of any lame cows quite quickly. It's just a picture of our layout. Not sure, it's not real big, but there's 2 VMS kind of back to back in there, and then the first one's here. So our main milking group was right over here, and then our pregnant heifers were here, and breeding age here. So all we did was move out these pregnant ones, and we could start with 30 cows on one robot. And then faraway dry cows were here, with our calving area here, and close-up cows in these stalls here. And then basically our trimming areas here, where all groups could move to it quite easily with just one person. I don't know if everybody could see that or not, but there's our calving area and the first robot and the 2 back-to-back. Main milking group here, and pregnant, breeding age, faraways, and close-ups. That's just a picture inside the barn looking up towards the robots. You can see it's quite wide open, very airy, and we get a lot of air movement in that barn, and it's really paid us back well, I think. I think I heard Jake mention in a question he posed earlier was just about how bad of winters we've had to experience the last couple of times, and here's a picture of our barn. So that sidewall there is 17 feet tall, and so I don't want to experience too many of those. And was that? Yeah, 2 winters ago, yeah. So I'm certainly glad I didn't have a row of stalls against that outside wall. I have since fixed that though. Heifer raising, I try to run pretty strict protocols on everything we do with calves. I think it's been well gone over with some of the earlier speakers. We're very strict on getting those 4 liters of colostrum into the calves right away. We also make sure we give them a CC, a Disticil, first defense bolus, in-force 3, intranasal, and we make sure their navels are sprayed at least once, if not multiple times, depending on how they look as we check them. One thing we find that's helpful to us is if we do have calves do scour out, Jenny and I both have the ability to IV our own calves, give them 4 liters of fluids IV, and we just see recovery times within 12 to 24 hours, as opposed to if we just use regular electrolytes, we could be a week, 10 days just trying to get them nursed back. We utilize an automatic calf feeder for our calves. We do allow them up to 12 liters a day, and I do see most of them drink it, so I have considered allowing them even higher levels just to see what I could do, but we're quite happy with the gains we see on them right now. After the automatic calf feeder, we do have a separate heifer barn with 8 separate pens that is just more of a bedding pack with a drive-through down one side, and then they progress down through those 8 pens, mostly as a group, and by the time they're at the end, they're a year old and they move into our main barn where they're bred.
How many days are you background in the I'm over here.
Can't see.
Sorry. How many days are you background in the calves before you put them on the feeder?
I think it was mentioned earlier, I really just go by how well they're drinking. So if they drink fine off a holder and a hutch within 4 days or even 3 days, as long as they've had generally, we try to give them 4 feedings off their own mother, and then once they're drinking off a holder and a hutch, that's when they move. So some take a week, some take 10 days. But majority of the time we find the earlier the better to get them moved. Again, I guess when we designed our barn, it was designed with cow handling in mind, with little to no stress. So we wanted to utilize wide open areas with no gating, large crossovers, just to make it as little areas for them to get trapped, and so bully cows can't really get chasing them around, and they can always get away. We utilize commitment pens with split entries, so we have a holding area just beside the robot where we can put in fetch cows. They can still get in while the main group can still enter as well. And then we have certain animals that choose to use those commitment pens, as they have a little bit of an advantage to go in from that side commitment pen than the ones at the front. So minimal disruption was key for us. When we are out fetching cows or doing anything with them, I stress to my employees that they walk slower than the cows. No talking, no blaring music. And when we do have to fetch cows, when we get them up, I make sure they back off, give them time to pass manure, whatever they might do, stretch, and then move them after. Again, once they get them moving, even if you stand still and let them walk, plenty of times they'll go straight to the holding area on their own. One person handling was key as well, just again for that whole, lots of people love to use the excuse, well, I didn't have help to do it. I didn't want that excuse in our barn. It's very simple to get done on their own. We have headlocks. We have, we can separate from all 3 robots to the central handling. There's just really no excuse to get it done. That's just another picture looking from the cow handling down, and then the actual trim crate, which is in between the 2 robots. So even on release, we can go to that group, we can go to this group, and we can go to that group. There's just absolutely no reason why it can't be done by one person. We put a lot of emphasis on producing top quality forage. Timing's key for us. Again, it costs us a little bit more to have our own equipment, but I think it pays back just by being able to get our forages in on time. Storing it right's key. We double layer our plastic in our bunks. We try to store about 18 months worth of feed so that we're never into unfermented feeds. We also do a lot of we'll spray on additives to our hay ground. We'll, because there's less acid rain in the environment, we add sulfur into our fertilizers, and we do an extra, I don't know what you'd call it, just a micronutrient package to increase the nutrient value of our hay. Our corn silage, we're spraying it at tasseling with a fungicide, just reducing our level of vomitoxins and any disease pressure there might be in the corn cob itself. Dry cow program, we utilize the Goldilocks, just straw corn silage, a little bit of soy meal for an extra bit of protein, and then we top dress anionic salt pellets just to aid in the transition. Also, we make sure we have a high quality pellet in the robot to draw them in, as that's our key to getting them into the robot themselves. And then also we have a good dealer support with great techs that are easy to ask for advice, and they're always right there. We can use, like everybody else, we can utilize TeamViewer, and we can just discuss it over the phone, make changes, and kind of monitor it after to see if we went the right way or not. DHI, that's our Dairy Herd Improvement Association. I do still take part in it. We test once a month, giving us fat, protein, and somatic cell counts on all of our cows. We also like to test for Johne's, leukosis. We do ketone testing through them, just more so as to give us trend lines of what way the herd's going and whether we should make ration adjustments. On leukosis, we really do, we change all our needles in between every cow to spread or to reduce the risk of spreading leukosis. The reports, we use the reports to further aid us in culling decisions. And also I'm fairly competitive in what I do, so I do like to be benchmarked against other producers, which currently I do sit 8 out of 120 in our own county, and 97 out of almost 3,000 in Ontario. So obviously my goal is to hopefully get to #1 in our county sometime and at least top 10 in Ontario. Our milk value per cow is $8,500 per cow, which translates into $6,000 US or 5,700 euros. One of the sayings I do live by is, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. Kind of back to the strict protocols. After calving, we do score our cows for room and fill, just to make sure that they seem to be eating enough, keep them on track. We do manure scoring, just so that we know how well they're digesting, and it gives you a lot of idea of just how well they're doing. Appearance scoring, we're looking at their eyes, their ears, and as well we are temp checking. Through the computer, my favorite reports, basically, probably my most used one is milking performance report. Just every category has a bit of information that I use all the time, just by sorting it by visits, sorting it by production. A lot of it I do by a bit of memory, especially with production. I'm always looking for who my higher producers are, and I always have an idea where they sit. So the next day I check. If they're not there, that's when I'm starting to question why they're falling off. Performance index is another big one for me. Just tells me how well they're doing. If maybe I can reteach them and improve attachment speeds. It also gives me a lot of insight into if I look at my kickoff report and I have one that's got a lot of kickoffs, but yet her performance index is good, I know that she's standing long enough for it to get attached and then probably kicking it off later in which case I should probably consider selling or at least monitoring to see if I could calm her down a little bit. System statistics is another big one for me, more so because I really do monitor on average what all my numbers are, just more so for making sure the robot's working to its fullest potential. As I mentioned before, I use a kickoff report quite often, more so for making sure that I'm dealing with problem cows right away. Incomplete follow-up is a big one for me as well. It's easy for me to remember what cows need to be checked quite often, but when we do run with our employees, it's easier. It gives them a really easy list for who they should go fetch and maybe make sure they get milked out properly. The ration calculation log is another one. I make sure just running it, it tells me it might list a cow that got missed giving a feed table. And obviously the cow monitor, MDI is a big one for me. We do go out and CMT any cows that start showing up on it. Actually, I should go back. Wrong one. So the graph in the background is actually my lactation graph. Whoops, I went the wrong way again. So typically, I think that's we're maxing, or our average is about 54 kilos, and I don't remember where our heifers are. Our heifers are maybe around 35. But the biggest one for us is this persistency. Basically, what we struggle on now is dry offs. And most of our cows are in that 30 kilo range when they're ready to dry off. And I think before I left, I checked 3 of my 5 cows that I have coming up are at like 37 kilos. And they pose a real challenge on how do I deal with those ones? And you know, do I need to delay my first breedings in order to take a little bit more lactation out of them? Most people are always trying to keep their days open short, but in our case, you know, if they're already milking and they're milking well, it's kind of nice if you can keep them in the herd for a little bit. Just a little bit on how we do feed. When we first started, we kind of ran a lower PMR and actually even a lower pellet allowance as well. Our maximum, I think, was around 6 kilos with, I think we only allowed them about 4 when they were fresh. And I felt for a long time we just weren't helping that cow get started very well. We maxed it at 2 kilograms a visit, and when they were averaging closer to 2 visits a day, we just couldn't get the pellets they needed into them. So, and then we were running about a 90% consumption rate, which just wasn't challenging them enough. And then I felt we were missing their lactation peak. With low visits, like I said, we just couldn't get the pellets we needed into them. So what we've recently done is increase the max pellets up to 7 kilos, and then for our very high producers, they can actually get 8 kilos. And we've more flatlined most of them so that we're not, as a cow moves up and down with production, I don't want their pellets changing. I want to make sure they have what they need available to them to hopefully help them peak at their highest and keep that persistent for a long time. You'll see sometimes cows they fall off a little bit, and then the pellets start getting cut back, and then it's just a downward spiral. Also, when we were still just running the 2, I did move it up to 3.5 kilograms a visit, which was quite a bit. And we did see a little bit extra left over in their feed bowls. So I did reduce that back down to 3 kilograms and stopped feeding them when there was 2 quarters left milking. We also feed free choice sodium bicarb just to buffer their stomach a little bit, just to prevent the acidosis. We also upped the PMR to about 32 liters a cow, and then we're expecting to get 8 to 10 liters out of the pellets. And we'll see how it goes at this for a little bit, and then we might see if we can push them a little bit more yet. This is just a little bit of an example of a cow that I picked out. And I think she was around like 40 to 50 kilos within 6 days. And that's kind of the challenge we face now, is how do we keep that cow going? And that's kind of the thing that I want to pose that question to everybody today is, how do we keep this cow from having that dip in her lactation? So then, just to summarize, we run very strict protocols and make sure we're taking care of the smallest details. Our barn design was basically based on cow longevity, and that's our goal in the future, is just to have older cows, more 2+ lactations, and higher kilos per cow. Handling was for no to low stress and high quality feed and feed for persistency. Our genetics are basically for great feet and legs. They're not going to come to the robot if they're breaking down and always lame. Quick culling decisions is very important on VMS, just to make sure you don't have poor performers taking up a bunch of extra time. So basically use your reports and make sure you take actions. And thank you. And you can find me on Twitter at John Wilkin. I'm pretty creative. So thank you.
Awesome. Very good, John. Thank you very much. All right, our next producer. We are just 2 more to go, but I think this is very well time spent. It's just amazing how much we can learn from producers. So I would like to welcome Tim Demrow from Wisconsin. So Tim and his family built a very, very beautiful 2 VMS dairy, milk first cow traffic. As you have seen, and we repeat always as a company, there is no one way of doing things. Every farm is a different universe, and we believe, as you have seen, every cow traffic with the right management can have the best performance. You just need to choose whatever is better for you, not use what is better for anybody else. It's what works for you. And that's a great example with Tim. I think they found the system that was working great for them, and welcome him with a round of applause again.
Thank you, Francisco. Thank you, DeLaval, for having me here. It's quite an honor. To start, like he said, we're from Wisconsin, and it's my dad, my uncle, myself. My sister helps out, my niece. I got a nephew that works there, so it's all family. A brother, or it's a half brother. And we only went with 2 VMS because we didn't know which direction to go. We were going to go with a parlor freestall setup, but we had to do everything at once. We come out of a stall barn, a 92 cow stall barn, and we were keeping them in the barn, switching cows to milk, and the health was going down. Breeding was a problem. So we wanted to do something. And we argued a long time. But Redeker Dairy helped us decide what route to go. He brought up the VMS route, and we ended up doing it. Well, I guess that's some of the information I already said. We were just milking 2 times a day. It was very labor intensive. And with my uncle getting older, milking in a stall barn was getting pretty tough. Our production at the time, we built a new barn in 2014, so we're almost 2 years in. Production was at 75 pounds. We were struggling with the somatic cell. Summer times, if we let the cows outside, we'd be going up 350, 400,000. Days in milk, like I said, the breeding was a problem. It was at 190, and it was getting pretty frustrating. When we moved in, the transition went smooth. Heard all these horror stories. It was going to be so tough. It ended up being real good. The cows took to it. Yeah, the first day it was a bugger, but no problem. And coming from a stall barn, we were worried about alley layers, you name it, and none of that happened. It was pretty good. Things didn't get to these numbers right away. We expected the worst, and actually everything got better right away, but not quite this good. This is just lately now. It's just a picture of like a couple days. And the trend has been up, and I was told we don't use Posilac, and I was told we probably couldn't make 100 pounds without. And for 1 month, we were close to averaging 100, so I'm pretty convinced we can do it now. And right now, we've been hovering right close to it pretty regularly. So with a couple tweaks, I think it'll be no problem. We're always overcrowded, and this has always been in the family. My dad and my uncle, they have a hard time selling cows. So, and our replacements are plentiful, and a lot of them do pretty good, so it's hard to get rid of them. Going to the VMS, there's a lot of little things that you don't like about a cow. Her tit placement or whatever it is. So it's easy for me to pick them out, but it's always hard to pull the trigger. So we're overcrowded. We were running up 138 cows for a while. The milk was okay, but it was pretty labor intensive. And guess who gets to do it? So it gets a little frustrating, that end of it. But I love the whole system, and I think it can work. It's just not as efficient when you're overcrowded like that. And I think as time goes on, I can probably fix that. But for now, it's been pretty tough. Cell count went down. We went from, like I said, a stall barn. Now we're in sand-bedded stalls, and it's been amazing. I get compliments. The cows are the cleanest cows of any sand barn that. Oh, I should back up. Dr. Andy Johnson works with us. He works for Grandy, and we ship our milk to Grandy. And every time he comes, he tells us that our cows are the cleanest cows that he's ever seen in the sand barn. So that's a pretty nice compliment. So I'm very happy we went with sand, even though sand is a pain in the butt to work with. We are a guided flow system. Smart gates, we got a foot bath on the exit lane from the robots. It's a 4-row barn. Perimeter feeding, which gives them plenty of room to eat. Go with 2 groups. We got a younger cow group and then a more mature cow group, which just for competition reasons is probably why we did that, but it's hard with the production because one robot is probably getting 1,000 pounds more milk a day than the other. Oh, good. I didn't know we were going to have this one. Numbers look fairly consistent with the others. There's some idle time, or no, how do I back up? There's a little more idle time than I expected. Our cows seem to be pretty laid back and lazy. I probably do a little more fetching than a lot of farms. Our turns are pretty low, but the milk production is there. The flow, again, we're almost 10 pounds a minute. So I'm not too concerned about that. It's not as efficient as it could be, but I think I can get there. I've gotten a lot farther than I expected going into this. I didn't know I would be controlling this as much as I am. I thought my uncle would stay in it more than he is. But hopefully I can get my sister or my nephew to step up and help out. What else? Our milking times are a little high. I looked the other day, both of them were at 8.5 minutes now. I'd like to get that down. There's a few cows we could call out that are taking a long time to milk. But as far as how things are going, I'm more than satisfied. Oh, I can't even see this. What is this? That goes to must be some sort of the statistics of each VMS, but I can't read them. To go through that. Couple pictures. That's the exit lane. The foot bath is right behind that cow. Right there. And that worked out really well. There's no problem getting them to go through that. It's helped our foot health, and I think the sand stalls have helped our foot health tremendously too. The layout probably looks a little familiar, as Francisco has talked. Right now, both our milking groups are, God darn it, got to be smarter than the little thing here. Our milking groups are right here. On this side, the robots are right here. On this end, I have the pre-fresh on this corner and dry cows on this corner and I bring the pregnant heifers in probably about 3 months before they're going to calve, 2 months depending on space. We got all our little special needs pens here that we can kick the cows into. This one I use for fresh cows, and this one over here I use the dry off cows. As the last producer was talking about drying off cows giving a lot of milk. This way I can limit their intakes. It's worked really well. And then we have on the end of the barn is all bedding pack, and that's where we calve the cows. We do hoof trimming. There's a little spot here. There's actually a trimming chute here that we can do on our own. And then my uncle wanted a little pit here, and he milks the fresh cows there. I don't milk the fresh cows in the robots. And treated cows, I have very few. Those I will run through. But we don't have a pasteurizer, so we don't save any of the milk. It's all waste anyway. But we could do it. We just haven't got that far. We built the barn to put the robots in, manure pit all at one time, so it was a pretty big cash outlay. So it'll be baby steps from here on for calf facilities. It's built to expand to 4 robots. All I got to do is add 40 feet onto the building. Another diagram of where the robots are. We got a pit in between them, so the cows are kind of at eye level. It's good for working. Some of our keys to success. It helped us focus on reproduction. The activity monitor has helped tremendously. Got our days of milk down to 165, and I want to get it even lower than that. It's changed all the time. How I spend my time on the farm, which has made me a lot happier. And barn design, coming from a stall barn, it's been so good for the cows too. Cow flow is optimized. Guided traffic is nice. It helps with the feeding part of it. PMR, we only feed about 4 pounds of pellet in the robot. So. And I use the MDI, the cow monitoring. That helps out catching problem cows, which hasn't been too bad. So. And make sure we put a little red in there too.
Awesome, very good.
All right, thank you very much. Last but not least, another gentleman from Wisconsin, Jake Pisick, representing JTP Farms. There is a bit of a story here with, I know most of you in the audience, I'm finding that you like to challenge yourselves to performance levels that are way above the averages. And it doesn't mean everybody can do this or wants to do this, but in this room I'm feeling there is a bit of friendly competition. And one day we had a world record coming out of Sweden with 3,100 kilos on one day. And it didn't take too long from our colleagues in North America to say, well, we did better. And then Jake, stepped up, and then we did better, and so on. As a friendly reminder, I think we saw on one of the slides from our colleagues from Hilding Farm a peak production of 24 hours of 3,180 kilos. So challenge is up again, I suppose. Jake, it's yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Terry. All right, I apologize to just a quick show of, so I see a lot of people at my place, and I have over the last 5 years, and I apologize if I don't know your names, because there's a lot of familiar faces in this room. Just a quick, for me, how many people have been to my place? Raise your hand. Less than I thought. Like, everybody looks familiar, but I don't know why. And, I'm usually not drunk at my place, it's usually just here at these things. So, all right, well, here we go. Once again, big, it's fun watching everybody else, and Tim, holy shit, what you guys did. Especially, no BST, in the States with, that is smoking. So I'm just gonna quick here in 10 minutes go over our farm with you guys. So there's a picture of our place, JTP Farms. We've been milking for just a shade over, we just entered our 5th year of production. We started milking in January of 2012. In the front there, it looks really fancy. Our milk house and our utility room are in there, but then also we have got a pretty nice gathering room, and my wife is a yoga instructor, so she uses that for her yoga studio now. There's a picture of my family. Our dairy is basically comprised, and it's a transition process, so that's kind of how our transition plan at our farm is working, is all the equipment and the facilities and everything are owned by my dad, who is my other full-time employee, and then my wife, Talia, and I own all the cattle, and we are slowly making lease-to-own payments on everything, so after 7 years, we'll assume the rest of the debt on the 80 acres with the buildings. So that's how we're transitioning that. Both my mom and my wife work 100% off the farm. The only thing my wife does at the farm is yoga. So, it's just me and Dad pretty much. All right, before we had the VMS, we had a 72-stall freestall barn with a double-4 step-up flat barn parlor milking 120 cows. So we were slightly overcrowded with 6-foot-long stalls. We basically had no cow comfort. We had mattresses with straw. Somatic cell count was 350,000. We averaged 68 pounds or 30.8 kilos per cow. It was a low-cost system, however, though, that got put in 94, and it made my dad an asswad of money. That's what he always tells everybody. He's like, I put it in cheap. I milked, I didn't get the best production, but it was low cost, and it paid for itself 100 times over. So when, the time came to spend $2.4 million on a milking facility, it was a little bit much for him. All right, there's a picture of the old flat barn. Let her rest in peace. I am lucky enough to, I milked in the flat barn, a lot, but I did not farm or dairy with my dad when we were still in the flat barn, so thank goodness. All right, JTB Farms, this is our why, and this is kind of the reasons why we decided to put in robots 5 years ago, was labor, labor, labor. 2 families, and we wanted to maintain the same standard of living that my dad had with his 120 cows, so 240 cows. Technology, oops, wrong button. Was always a big one. You want to stay ahead of the game, but not too far behind. We wanted to be modular, so in case I decided to expand again, we could do that. We wanted a new challenge, and my favorite line that I do in every presentation, you've never had to pull a drunk robot out of the ditch. So I've worked at a 1,500 cow dairy, I've worked at a dealership. Believe me, in my day, I've pulled enough drunk employees out of the ditch in snowstorms. All right. And then also our why is this right here is Evie, my little girl. She's 5.5 months old, and that's her helping Dad at the farm. And then my grandpa, so Evie's great-grandpa, is also an active part of our farming operation yet. He takes care of my dry cows and goes to town and gets calf feed. So he's, Grandpa Don is pretty active yet. Here is a quick layout of our barn. You've seen it today before. But it's kind of nice to know in listening to some of our good speakers we had today that I got a chance to incorporate some of this stuff 5 years ago. So, you know, these are the basic milk first robot pens that I have here. But on this side of the barn, when we built, one of our big decisions was, you know, what do we do with our pre-fresh group? What do we do with calving facilities? Do we want to, you know, do it at the old barn and then haul them with trailers up to the new barn? We were trying to figure out ways to put calving pens on this end of the robot, but then we were having trouble figuring out if we're going to make it modular and flip the barn. What are we going to do? So then one day I was talking to our consultant, and he's like, well, what if we just like put a lean-to on the south side of the barn? Which kind of was the birth of this area. Probably $150,000 of the best money I ever spent, which is how much it cost, which is a lot. But down at this end is my like 30 to 35 cow pre-fresh group. 3 weeks prior to calving, we bring them up from the dry cow barn. From there, they move across the gate into the calving pens that are just straw packs. From there, when they calve, the calves go into little hutches that are like right there. And they stay there for the like 7 to 10 days till they go on the auto feeder. And then in this area right here, this is my special needs fresh cow area where I milk them with basically a bucket pulsator twice a day. So I still remember how to manually milk cows. That's pretty much the only reason why I have it. No, I'm just kidding. Works out great. We have a pasteurizer, so we save all of our milk, pasteurize it for the calves. Oh, I'll go back again quick. Our barn is also cross-ventilated. And it was fun, too, to see the charts of the prevailing winds in the summer in Wisconsin because they come out of the south. So our barn is built east and west, so the prevailing winds come in from the south, and we blow it out the north side. All right, so, you know, they said to brag, so, okay. This is the highest 24-hour period that we had like 2 years ago or 3 years ago when DeLaval said that, you know, we broke these records or whatever. Whoops. So, this is the average across 4 VMSs, so it's not the high one. This is across all 4 pens. At that time, we were milking 250 lactating cows. I think there was 247 going through the robot that day, which means 3 of them were in the sick cow pen. Milk first pre-selection. We averaged 7 minutes and 20 seconds average stall time that day across all 4 robots at 2.8 milkings. This number here is totally wrong, so don't look at it because I thought it was in kilos, even though it should be in pounds on the computer, but metric to standard conversion and Del Pro are not keen. 65, yeah, everybody's snickering. The US people understand. 6,543 pound average per VMS for that day, 106.9 pounds per cow, or 48.49 kilos, and at 37.5 pounds per visit, basically, was our average that day. Now, of course, you know, I show you the best day. Like, I'm not going to show you the average because that's lame. So, yeah, showed you the best day. That day, we had 6,900 pounds on Robot 1, almost 6,400 pounds on Robot 2, 6,300 on Robot 3, and almost 6,600 on Robot 4. With our longest stall time being 7 minutes and 40 seconds, and our shortest being 7:02. This slide is really hard to see, but this is just, the screenshot of that day with the milkings and the pounds and how many we were milking. And I guess the other cool thing is we were only feeding like 4.3 pounds of pellets per day. All right, so, there's that, and then there's reality, which is where we are today. So basically, the last 30-day average has been 96 pounds per cow, 2.6 visits per day. I've been averaging about 5,900 pounds a robot. My goal is always 6,000, but I hit and miss that occasionally. So it's about 5,900 has been over the last 30 days. And we run a 220,000 somatic cell. I'm not to the point yet where I can cull for somatic cell. Like, I'll still take a high producing cow with a high cell count over not having that cow. Especially right now in the US when I'm losing like $1 a hundredweight on every hundredweight I ship. I need what? I need to ship more, yeah, I know. Kind of a funny story there. So this last summer I was down a little bit in production. I was focusing more on components because they were paying pretty good for components. As we all know in the States right now, that went to crap. So basically I lowered all my components and got some production back because they're it's about the same. So all right, so this was a screenshot from 2 days ago. It was like 6,000 pounds on robot 1, 6,400 on robot 2, 56 and almost 6,000. It was like 59.97 on robot 4. So all right, some keys to our success, and this is pretty much my last slide. Cow comfort. Cow comfort is number one. I didn't have a lot of pictures in here about our barn and stuff because I didn't know how much time we were going to have. But sand bedding, in my opinion, and I know I offend a lot of people, especially the waterbed people when I say this, it's the only way. Not only from a lying aspect, but from traction, which was mentioned already today. It's kind of a no-brainer. The low organic matter for as far as keeping cows dry and growing things in the beds. The guided cow flow is a huge thing for me for labor because basically, it's 2.25 full-time employee equivalents that we have for the milking barn, but then raising all the young stock also. So, some of my mottos are great people equal great success, and my bigger one is results, not excuses. So, I get frustrated when things don't go my way, but that's just part of the process, and we roll with it. It was kind of fun to see the line graph that they had, I'm trying to think if that was this morning, with the different kind of adaptation curve to technology, where you think it's awesome and can do all this, and then after that it's like the crash of despair, where you're like nothing can go right, and it's like you feel like you're a loser. And then after that, which is about 2.5 years in, then you're just like whatever, you just roll with it. Something can be on fire or whatever, a robot goes down, it's like, well, I suppose I'll get it fixed. So yeah, I don't know. I still do get worked up though when I get an idle alarm. So if I get an idle alarm for 40 minutes, I'm like, why is this happening? And then I realize that, one robot down for an hour is like 250 pounds of milk. So anyway. All right, I think that's it. I tried to go fast.
Thank you very much, Jake. So I have one mic here. Okay, so first question, Dean Miller. One question, Dean.
Okay. Well, I have a whole page of questions here, but I will just ask one question, but I will ask it of two people. Great presentations by everyone. Thanks, everyone. Awesome results. But for Australia and Chile, you talked about how low your incompletes were. I'd just like if you could maybe make a couple comments of how you keep your incompletes as low as you do.
First, Australia, if you want first Marcus and then Audrium.
Probably the first thing and the most important thing is they just got to have milk in their udders. And we went up to Wisconsin last week looking around, and a lot of the cows were getting milking permission with 8, 10 litres in their udder, and their back teats are just going to be so close. And then they'll come around again the next time. And they get milked, they'll be incomplete on one back quarter, most likely. And then the second she leaves the robot, she's still got milking permission. So she'll come around again 2 hours later. get milked again, probably get the wrong quart of milk by the wrong cup. She's still incomplete. So it just continues on. Incompletes create incompletes.
Okay. Adrian?
Ya. Bueno, si quieres yo te digo en español y tú lo traduces.
Okay.
Lo primero es que nosotros hacemos una selección de los animales. Antes, como tenemos tantos animales, también seleccionamos por ubre igual.
Because what they do is they have 6,000 cows, and the first thing they do, they have some criteria for selection. The first criteria for selection is udder conformation. And because of great udder conformation, then they achieve very low incompletes.
Y luego, cuando las vacas van adelantándose en su lactancia, o sea, lactancia muy tardía, cambiamos los permisos para que las ubres lleguen más llenas.
And they manage based on milking permissions. So what they do is as the cows go far into lactation, they adjust the milking permissions so that the cows come with the udders full. But it's basically the great udder conformation and very good milking permission setup so that the teats are always in good placement.
Y lo otro es que cuando los muchachos llegan al turno, pues tenemos 3 muchachos por turno, ellos lo primero que atacan son los incompletos, porque nosotros, el promedio es una cosa, pero lo otro es que ninguno de los VMS puede estar sobre 5%, y entonces ellos sistemáticamente atacan los VMS que tienen 5% más, y ven si es el brazo, o si es la vaca, y la setean.
They have 3 people per shift managing the 5...
Por día, uno.
Yeah, managing the 500 cows. So they use it as a benchmark that any robot should have more than 5%. And if a robot has more than 5%, they have to go immediately and do an SOP, checking different parts of the robot, checking different things. So it's a clear SOP for the people when it is above 5%. Good. Any other question? Guys, this is kind of a unique opportunity, right? Yeah, Jack.
We didn't hear about pasture in Sweden, and I'm very curious if they do things differently there.
How would you do grazing in Sweden? How is it?
When they go outside.
Yep.
They, I don't know how to explain it, but from the stations, feeding stations, they go outside, and further down the barn they go inside again. So we're just increasing the guided system.
So it's not a 3-way grazing. It's not ABC like New Zealand or Australia. It is just simple. The cow doesn't have milking permission. The cow can get out of the barn. It's more like a resting area rather than a full grazing strategy. Yep. Question from Al?
What percentage of fetch would you have on the free flow system? I think there was the one
John?
system. And how long did it take the cows to adapt to the, like from startup of robots, how long did it take for the cows to adapt? I know the fresh cows adapt much better than late lactation cows. At what point do you say like the last third of the lactation they have to calve again before they actually get it, or how long?
Yep. Probably when we were running the extra cows on just the 2, our fetch rate would have been getting up into the 15% range. Now that we're on 3, I'm pretty sure we're probably below 10. And again, we've only got the other one going a few weeks ago, so I expect it to go down even further. Startup, we basically on startup you dry off anything within kind of 2 months of calving, especially if they're late lactation and not as much production. It's just not worth taking the time to train them to the system at that point. I would say it really only took us about a month maybe to get them really going, and even at that, I think it was only maybe 10 days that we had somebody in the barn 24 hours, and then after that it was it went pretty smoothly. It just involved making sure the ones that didn't go through on their own got through, and I don't know, we were quite impressed at how quickly they took to the system. But don't get me wrong, like free traffic does have its headaches. like every day seems to change a little bit. The weather changes their traffic patterns. So it is a different way of managing it for sure.
Yep. What importance do you guys place on the animal's genetics?
So,
Like, do you find the bigger, like, is there a correlation if you guys are using the higher, if you're evaluating it, whether it's TPI, LPI, or whatever your system you have in your country, the higher genetics, are they performing better?
I guess, yeah, we can go around.
Genetics is absolutely critical. Our genetic index measures profitability per cow. And just this February, I was telling Jeffrey, that we've included body condition score in our genetic index. So we use the highest group of genetic merit bulls we can, and I think it's absolutely critical.
We'd be the same way. I only really choose the highest genomic tested bulls. Firstly, stressed on great udders, feet and legs. Stature, I'm not as concerned about. It seems to all come as the package, but I don't use any one measurement, I guess, from it. I'm kind of trying to look for what suits our herd.
Are you asking, like, in terms of that, just for the robot, for the attachment and the udders, or?
I guess the criteria of selection, GTPI, LPI, if you do it based on indexes, for example, you do it based on the index, and some people would do it based on conformation traits, like John, udder, and feet and legs. So what kind of criteria of selection do you use?
And just adding to that, because I mean, we only moved into a robot about a year ago, and we're seeing that there is a correlation, like the higher milk production, just everything, like they're outperforming their herd mates. We're free flow, so it is, everyone has the same opportunity. So just, are we proving, like, is the correlation correct? Are these animals just that superior? Are you guys seeing that too?
Yeah, I would say so. We have bred AI since the late 70s, even though we were in a stall barn. So I think genetics is a huge aspect of it. Now, we've changed some of our criteria now since we decided right at the last minute to go with VMS. You had to change a few of them, milkability and conformation and all that good stuff. So,
you want to comment, Mark?
Probably the best way I would have thought to answer it is, in our farming system, the better cows get better, and the worse cows probably get worse. So, simple as that.
In the case of Chile, Adrian was just telling me, they select for longevity, for long time production, and they select for solids. They don't select for milk production, although they get 46 kilos. So why did you select for milk production? That would be interesting. Okay, any other question? Yep. Turn around, please.
Okay. This would be a question for any of you guys. Just curious, we've talked about a lot of numbers and statistical efficiencies. If any have seen higher efficiencies in feed to milk or decreased feed cost per hundredweight in making the transition to voluntary milking, if that makes sense?
Let me think for a few seconds here.
That's a hard one.
I think in our case, with free traffic, we do definitely see an increase in feed costs, but I think we're well paid back for it. The return on investment is so much higher in those extra liters you produce per cow.
Yeah, we, compared to the old facility, obviously we're producing, a third more milk on just a little bit more feed. I'm not quite as good right now on feed efficiency, but last year, I was hitting like a 1.7. Right now the cows are eating between 58 and 60 pounds of dry matter, which isn't the best efficiency. They're still eating a lot, but my cost per head per day is like $6.35 feed cost per cow per day. So feed costs we've definitely been able to keep a little more in check, I think, in the new farm. But a lot of that too is we were just watching it a lot closer.
We're just doing it here. In the case of Chile, in the conventional, in the rotary parlors, is 1.5. In the robot parlor is 1.87. Yeah, between 1.7 and 1.87. And what we have been discussing with Odriam here, and we were just doing it based on the numbers, is the question I asked Ken this morning is how much energy and stress we produce on the cows every time we bring those cows to the holding pens. I really think that as an industry, and when I talk to people, I would say them, yeah, we think about robots because of labor. I would invite you to think about robots because of what it does for the cow. There is a lot of things that happen when you bring the parlor to the cow and not the cow to the parlor. So let's think about that. Kurt.
One of the things in that line is that, basically by not putting that cow in a holding pen 2 and 3 times a day, we're buying 3 hours a day of that cow's life that she can do something productive. Because that's the one thing that rings true in most of these seminars and stuff we go to, is that a holding pen, crowded, hot, stuffy, she can't eat, she can't lay down. We're basically buying 3 hours of that cow's life every day that she can do something productive. And I think that's probably where we're seeing some of that advantage of the percent of milk increase we see. And that's another question maybe to the gentleman from Chile, is that you were 3 times a day with high production. That's the question we get a lot out here in the West, is what can we expect? We put in robots, we're milking 3 times a day, we've got high production already. What's the real opportunity there?
Yeah, the answer is very simple, 3 liters more. Same milk frequency, just going from conventional to robotics is 3 kilos more, so it's 6.6 pounds higher, just because of the cow comfort and the cow situation.
Same feeding process, but same feeding program?
Yeah, actually I can answer this one, I know.
Sí, en la raciones, pues son raciones mezcladas, tenemos varias. Aquí tenemos una sola PMR, pero con diferenciación de costos.
So, it's the same guy feeding, everybody's the same, but they manage different TMRs in the conventional dairy because they have high ration, medium ration, low ration, like any large dairy, right? But in the case of robots, they just manage one formulated PMR for all cows. But the forage quality is the same, everything is the same. Actually, this was not mentioned in the presentation, but they have the same dry cow facilities, they calve the cows in the rotaries, and they move the cows in the rotaries. It depends between 20 and 40 days in milk. So what they do is they go full speed, full milking, clean, healthy cows in the robots. And that's a model that is growing in adaptation in the West, is people that today is milking 2,000 cows, they want to expand. It is easier to find and to put 2,000 cows here, 2,000 cows there, and they use the rotary or the big parlor as a supplier of good, clean cows out there.
Hay una cosa que sí quiero comentarles, que la diferencia entre los picos de producción de las vaquillas es muy alto. La diferencia es muy alta entre la rotativa y el VMS. El VMS pican mucho más alto las vaquillas.
He's saying that the one thing he would like to comment is the biggest difference he finds is in the peaks of the heifers. The first lactation peaks in the parlor are much lower than the high peaks on the robots. So that's his main surprise factor, I would say. You see the same? Yep, I think everybody is seeing, and things have been improving since we evolved. Well, we have 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes.
Okay,
one question.
I'll make it quick. I know this is a DeLaval convention, and coming from a standpoint of a producer that's looking into robots, I've looked at a few different companies, Westphalia, GIA, DeLaval obviously, and I guess my question is, why DeLaval? Especially from what I've seen is the price of a robot is, sometimes $50,000 more than other companies. So,
okay.
Why did you guys choose DeLaval?
Honest answers, right?
Well, honestly, for me, it was we live about 10 kilometres down the road from Nick Dawn off the Robotic Rotary, so that was a pretty easy answer for me. So, yeah, the technicians were there. But looking at it now, I'm pretty happy with like me and Alvin talked about, the pre-selection and the gate selections that you can do with the DeLaval gate. It's so much more than any other company, and that's extremely important in the pasture-based system.
Everyone, I think, if we can come.
Yeah, I guess in the end it revolves around people you can trust and get on with. And yeah, why do I buy blue tractors? I trust the people, and it's a great product.
Dealers a mile down the road. Good dealership. They're my uncles. I had to buy it from them. And the smart selection gates. I mean, I want to do milk first, and I like manual attach. But so if something goes wrong on the arm, especially if I'm replacing stuff because of sand wear, I can still milk cows.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm the same. We did tour some red barns at the time. At the time in our area, the dealer network wasn't very good for them, and a lot of complaints. And when we were touring with Norwell, the DeLaval dealer, everybody was very happy with the follow-up, the tech support. And since we did decide to go that way, we haven't been disappointed that way. The techs have been great. Very easy to fix stuff just even over the phone. And the same thing, I'd agree, when something does go wrong, being able to put them on manually is a big selling feature, although I don't like doing it.
Well, for me it was the guided traffic most. And then it was good service, both salesmen and technicians.
Service, support, guided traffic, manual attachment, and I like blue better than red.
In our case, is the service and the support too, because I mean, reconvert 6,500 dairy farm is not a simple, and the decision is take too, because we count with DeLaval too.
So I think the dealerships deserve a big round of applause, because it all comes down to service. And we always say this, yeah, we can be in Sweden or Chicago or whatever, but the dealerships are the guys that see you every single day. And if there is no service, there is no technology that can work. So really the big heroes here are the dealerships. Last question.
All right, I understand all you guys basically made brand new barns. You guys went from older facilities to brand new barns. What would you think was the major factor in increasing production? Because I understand all you guys increased production. Was it the barns or was it the robot?
I would have to say it's a combination of both. And for us, it freed up time. It made me manage differently, make better feed. So, without the robots themselves, you couldn't do that either. So,
I agree with him.
See, what I'm saying is you guys all, like he was saying, you guys all went up in cow comfort. You guys went from, so was it really the robots, going voluntary and increasing, decreasing the time in holding pins and milking, or was it the robot itself?
Again, I'd have the same answer. It's a combination of both. I got to give our barn a pile of credit, just sand bedding, the handling of the cows, just the freedom, but the same thing, not going to a holding area every day. I think we certainly gained quite a few liters just in that. Again, with the free traffic goes both ways. I think we gain from them being able to go lay down when they want, but then we lose a little bit if we do have to fetch them as well. So there's a bit of a trade-off there.
I will translate for Adrian so that I don't forget all what he told me, okay? So what he just mentioned was the cows in Ancali, they came from sand bedding, 4-row traditional barns, to sand bedding, 4-row or 2-row, tail to tail. So cow comfort was the same. what he thinks made the big difference in increasing milk production was, again, the parlor coming to the cow, not the cow going to the parlor. And the other thing that made a big difference in Ancali was when we started the smart pulsation feature, which means that the robot adjusts the milk, the pulsation ratios for every single cow as they go throughout the lactation, because he thinks the cows milk so much better, faster, and quieter, and that, of course, allows to a better milkability. Jake?
Depends where you're coming from. You know, our cows came from crap, so, you know, probably 80-20 as far as facilities versus robot. You know, we probably gained a little bit from the robot, but our cows definitely gained from sand bedding, cross-ventilated barn, you know, that kind of stuff.
I guess in our pasture-based system, people can't believe the change in cows, the cow behaviour, the just contentment of the cows. We have people stand there and watch for hours because they didn't believe cows on pasture could be so quiet.
Great. Thank you very much.